Hiro was a pathetic crybaby loser who couldn't get a single girl to ride with him, just like you, but one day, he rizzed a freaky hot beauty who made him her darling and let him ride her. Together, they became the strongest. And now she wants to marry him and would do everything he asked. In a far-off future, humanity is barely surviving after being nearly wiped out by massive beasts called Klaxosaurs. Their only real defense are giant robots called FranXX that can only work when piloted by a guy and a girl together. The story follows Hiro, a teenage boy living in a place called Plantation 13, and he's got a big problem: he has no partner. His old co-pilot Naomi ditched the program partly because Hiro was a pathetic loser who can't charge his plot sword and couldn't activate the robot. He feels defeated and starts losing all hope of ever becoming a pilot again. One day, while wandering around feeling hopeless, Hiro notices a girl swimming in a lake. She suddenly disappears under the water, and worried she might be drowning, he rushes over to save her. But instead of needing help, she shoots out of the water holding a fish, licks Hiro's face, and drags him into the lake with her like it's nothing. She tells him she wants him to be her darling, reaching out her hand and saying she can help him regain his lost abilities. Just when Hiro is about to grab her hand, a bunch of guys show up and demand to know why she ran off. She shrugs it off, saying she needed a break. As they leave, Hiro asks her name. She says she doesn't have one, but goes by the code name 02, and then she vanishes. Later, there's a big ceremony to welcome new FranXX pilots called Parasites, and the leader, known as Papa, gives a speech. Hiro isn't allowed to attend because he's been labeled a failure. His squad leader Hachi feels bad for him but can't do anything. Feeling totally useless, Hiro decides to leave the plantation. He stops by to say goodbye to Naomi before she's sent away, but suddenly, a huge Klaxosaur erupts from underground and flips over her transport vehicle. As the monster breaks loose, the military opens fire with cannons, but it's no use. The creature crashes into the fortress and wipes out the defense unit, and Hiro ends up falling from a high platform. When he sees that the monster is heading straight for his friends, he rushes after it, only to realize there's a second Klaxosaur joining the fight. One of the beasts tries to blast a young pilot, but a FranXX shows up in time and starts attacking the Klaxosaur. The beast transforms its tail into a giant weapon and knocks the FranXX back, blasting an energy shot. The FranXX manages to reflect the blast, creating a huge explosion and launching the mech toward Hiro. A man falls out of the FranXX, clearly dead, and when Hiro looks inside, he finds 02 sitting in the cockpit. She casually tells him her old partner didn't make it. When he asks how she plans to fight on her own, she simply says she'll handle it. After all, her partners never last more than 5 seconds, and she's used to going solo. Hiro tells her he wants to be her new partner and doesn't care if he dies. She smiles, says they're alike, and that she likes him. Then she grabs him, calls him darling, kisses him, and pulls him into the cockpit. The FranXX suddenly lights up with incredible power, reacting to the bond between them. At the same time, the Klaxosaur charges at the base, but the robot fights back hard. Their combined energy transforms the FranXX into a stronger version. It throws the first monster aside and launches a spear straight into the second one. The robot slams into the Klaxosaur, fills it with poisonous gas, and blasts it into thick smoke. With the monsters gone, 02 walks out of the FranXX, carrying Hiro. Everyone is stunned because they know her reputation. She's the infamous partner killer. The next day, Hiro returns to his team's dorm. His teammate Ichigo is waiting and asks if he really piloted the FranXX during the attack. Hiro says he doesn't remember much but wants to try again to be sure. Ichigo warns him that 02's co-pilots usually don't survive past their third ride and begs him to stay away from her. But Hiro admits he can't stop thinking about her and wants to pilot with her again. Another teammate, Goro, shows up and says 02 is in the dining hall. In the hall, the rest of the squad watches 02 scarf down food like a wild animal. Jerome, a lonely virgin loser, walks up to her trying to rizz with his Reddit pickup lines in the dumbest way possible, saying he wants to ride with her. She wipes her greasy hands on him like he's a napkin, making him scream. She then sits beside Hiro and asks for a taste of his meat. Hiro takes the opportunity to ask if he really did pilot with her. She confirms it and calls him her darling again, shocking the rest of the crew. A woman named Nana enters and introduces herself as their new supervisor. She'll be managing everything from training to daily routines. As 02 leaves, Hiro asks if they can pilot together again. Nana quickly says no, explaining that only headquarters can make that decision. Inside the elevator, Nana warns 02 to keep her distance from the other kids, especially Hiro, thinking she'll lead them down the wrong path. The next day, Ichigo and Goro run into Zero Two. Ichigo decides to confront her and asks why she chose Hiro as a partner. Zero Two gives no answer, so Ichigo warns her not to mess with Hiro, saying she doesn't want to see him hurt. Zero Two sees through her fake concern and just stares at her coldly before licking her face like some creepy monster and walking off. Later that evening, Zoroark kicks a ball at Hiro and starts mocking him, saying he's weak and pretending to be a hero. Furious, Hiro tries to fight back, but Ichigo and Goro jump in to break it up. A few days later, the sergeant tells Hiro that he's been selected to try piloting a FranXX again. If he wins the match, he'll become a full parasite. Zero Two immediately offers to partner with him, but Ichigo insists on being his co-pilot instead. Nana agrees to this setup, and Zero Two walks away, clearly disappointed. Zoroark sees this and challenges Hiro to a one-on-one fight, saying he's going to crush him and prove he's a worthless loser. That night, the battle begins in front of the entire squad. Ichigo tells Hiro that their best chance is to form a strong emotional connection. She'll take care of the fighting if he just focuses on syncing up with her. But Hiro has never had a real bond with any girl. He's always been a lonely, worthless loser. They manage to activate the FranXX together and approach Zoroark's robot. It looks like they're winning, and Hiro gets confident, thinking they've got it in the bag. But suddenly, their FranXX shuts down for no reason. As Zoroark moves in for the final blow, Hiro tries to restart the machine, but nothing works. Ichigo asks if she's the reason he can't get it up and wonders why things worked with Zero Two. Hiro mentions that their kiss made the robot come alive, though he didn't realize what it meant at the time. Hoping to test it, Ichigo kisses Hiro, covering his eyes while doing it, but nothing happens. The FranXX stays dead. Zoroark attacks, knocking them down hard. Ichigo, furious and humiliated, powers the FranXX by herself, slams it into Zoroark's robot, and crashes both of them into the base wall. Inside their cockpit, Ichigo breaks down in tears, yelling at Hiro and calling him a useless piece of shit. She truly believes he ED and can never ride with any partner. The next morning, Hiro and Ichigo crossed paths outside the exam room. Hiro tried to say sorry for how things went, but before he could even finish, Ichigo was called away by someone. Later that day, Hiro spoke with Goro and told him he was planning to team up with Zero Two again. Goro wasn't thrilled about it. He reminded Hiro that all her old partners had died fighting beside her. But Hiro didn't care. He said if he couldn't pilot a FranXX, he was basically useless. The following day, Hiro saw Zero Two standing alone. As soon as he looked her way, she told him she had been waiting and wanted him to follow her. She headed down a corridor, but when Hiro tried to go in, the system blocked him. That's when Zero Two showed off her special S-Class ID, which gave her full access to every area. She grabbed his hand and dragged him through the security gate like it was nothing. Once they made it outside, Hiro was shocked to see a peaceful city hidden beyond the walls. He asked how she even knew this place existed, and she explained that all facilities like theirs were built the same way, and she'd been to plenty of them. Hiro said he'd never been outside before because all the kids were born and raised inside the fortress. He told her he wanted to give her a new name, but she smiled and said she liked being called Zero Two. Then she climbed up a pole, balanced across it like it was a tightrope, and playfully asked if he'd ever thought about running away with her. Hiro didn't answer. He was too scared. The next day, Nana gathered the squad and told them they had their first real mission: wipe out some minor Klaxosaurs that had shown up outside the base. The sergeant added that these creatures were being drawn in by magma energy, and lately they'd been causing trouble at a mining site called Level 8. Since Hiro still wasn't officially able to pilot, Nana said he had to sit this one out while the others handled the threat. Soon, the squad arrived at the site and spotted a Klaxosaur already tearing into the equipment. Ichigo led the attack and managed to stab it, pulling it down. Another FranXX helped pin it, and Zoroark finished the job by jamming his weapon straight through it. He started bragging like it was the easiest mission ever. Ichigo told him to destroy its core right away, but before he could, the Klaxosaur jumped on him and started smashing his robot. Miku blacked out from the impact. Thankfully, Futoshi jumped in and blasted the creature off them, giving Ichigo time to strike the core and finish it. Before they could catch their breath, another Klaxosaur showed up, followed by several more. Realizing they were outnumbered, Ichigo shouted for everyone to retreat before they got wiped out. Meanwhile, back at the facility, Zero Two told Nana she wanted to go help them. Hiro offered to go with her, but the sergeant brushed him off, calling him a weakling who'd just get in the way. Zero Two tried convincing Nana to let them go, but she flat out refused, saying Hiro wasn't allowed to ride with her. Mitsuru suddenly spoke up and volunteered to partner with 02 instead. He said they were out of time, and it was their only shot at saving the others. He even threw shade at Hiro, saying he could ride her way better. 02 told Mitsuru to get lost and insulted his face, but Hiro, feeling embarrassed, finally stood up and asked her to ride with him. She accepted. Back at the battle, Miku finally regained consciousness, and the squad worked together to hold a gate shut as the Klaxosaurs pounded on it. Ichigo was doing her best to keep it together, but when she heard 02 was coming to help and might be with Hiroshi, got distracted. That was all it took. Her robot shut down, and the Klaxosaurs broke through the gate. The squad had to flee as the monsters chased after them. They ran until they hit a dead end. That's when a massive Klaxosaur loomed over them, ready to devour the whole squad. But suddenly, 02's FranXX dropped out of the sky and stabbed the beast straight through. It exploded in front of them. More monsters appeared, and Mitsuru started showing off, calling himself the greatest pilot ever and bashing Hiro as useless. While he was slashing away, 02 locked in on a huge Klaxosaur and charged full power into battle. By the time their robot surfaced again, 02 was totally fine, but Mitsuru looked like death, knocked out and barely breathing. The next day, Mitsuru looked like he'd seen something horrifying. Hiro approached him and asked what had happened in the cockpit. Mitsuru warned him that 02 was insane. He said she tried to suck out his soul and nearly killed him. He told Hiro to stay far away if he didn't want to end up like the rest of her victims. Later that day, Ichigo confronted Hiro again. She wanted to know if he was seriously still planning to ride with 02, even after everything that happened. Hiro told her yes, he had no intention of backing down. Ichigo said she wouldn't try to stop him anymore and quietly walked away. The next day, when Hiro saw 02 again, Mitsuru's warning echoed in his mind, and he quickly hid. He slipped into a quiet pool to clear his head, but 02 showed up there too. She stepped into the water with him and teased him, asking if he wanted to develop plot together. Hiro was too nervous to answer. She told him he was the only one worthy of being her partner, and that they had something special. But before they could talk more, alarms blared throughout the base. Outside the fortress, 4 FranXX units were already engaging a Klaxosaur. One of them got knocked back by a worm-like creature, but the others jumped in, trapping and stabbing the beast. Just when they thought it was over, the Klaxosaur twisted around and grabbed Zoram. Then it released a strange substance that trapped the rest of the squad in place. Ichigo tried to escape, but she tripped and got stuck in the sand with everyone else. Meanwhile, Hiro and 02 ran to Nana and begged her to let them fight, but she refused again. Suddenly, a bunch of armed soldiers surrounded them and told 02 that she was being recalled to another base by higher command. When one of them touched her, she smacked him across the room, and the others raised their weapons at her. Realizing she couldn't win this fight, 02 told Hiro that she had to leave for a different facility. She was upset that she couldn't stay with him. She said goodbye and began walking away. As she left, Hiro turned to Nana and asked if it was true had 02 really caused the deaths of all her partners. Nana admitted that 02 was different. She was more of a weapon than a person. Every battle drained her co-pilots until they died. She wasn't human, she was from somewhere unknown. Hearing that, Hiro realized he had judged her unfairly. He ran off after her, shouting her name. He slammed his fists against the wall, begging her to hear him. He shouted that riding with her brought him back to life, and he wanted to be with her again no matter what. That caught her attention. She stopped walking. Hearing those words made her smile. She leapt onto a soldier, grabbed his gun, and fired at the glass barrier. Then she smashed her way through and ran back to Hiro. She told him no one had ever said something so sweet to her before and asked him to say it again. Hiro said he wanted to ride with her until he released everything into her, pouring all his energy into the cockpit. She grinned, agreed to help save the squad, and told him they had to move fast. 02 knocked away a soldier, and the two of them sprinted toward her robot. Nana yelled for them to come back, but 02 shut off communication and ignored her. The FranXX powered up and launched into the sky at full speed. They slammed into the Klaxosaur and freed the trapped team. Hiro shouted that he'd take care of the creature's tail, so the rest of the squad focused on the head. As the Klaxosaur fired more weird objects, 02 blocked them, grabbed its tail, and pumped it full of gas, but there was no core. The monster dove underground, and their robot followed. When it reappeared, it looked like a massive sandworm. Ichigo jumped on its back and stabbed the tail. The rest of the squad followed, driving their weapons into the monster and pinning it down. Hiro and 02 took the opportunity, leapt across to the other side, and dove into the creature's body. They found the core and destroyed it from the inside, blasting the entire beast into a massive cloud of smoke. That night, the announcement system across the base shared some big news. 2 separate colonies were going to link up in something called a kissing procedure. Zoram, being clueless as usual, asked if that meant they'd literally have to kiss each other. Ikuno rolled her eyes and explained that kissing just meant transferring magma energy fuel used to power their FranXX units from one station to the other. Nothing romantic about it. But when the group started getting nervous that Klaxosaurs might attack during the transfer, Hiro spoke up and said he'd protect everyone using his robot, no matter what. A few days later, the kids officially graduated and got promoted to full-fledged parasites. Everyone seemed excited about the next chapter except Hiro. Goro noticed something was off with him the next morning. While they were in the bathroom, Goro asked if he was feeling okay. Hiro smiled and said he was fine, but Goro could tell he was lying. Later in the lounge, the rest of the squad thanked Hiro for saving their lives during the last battle. Hiro didn't ask for praise, he just hoped they'd finally start seeing him as part of the team. When Zoram tried to downplay his actions by saying he just got lucky, Hiro didn't argue. Instead, he offered a handshake to keep the peace, and Zoram accepted. After that, they all headed into the cafeteria. Right then, 02 appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Hiro, leading him to a separate table to eat. She was her usual messy self, spilling greasy food everywhere. But then she picked up a bite and lovingly fed Hiro like it was totally normal. Later that day in the boys' dorm, 02 jumped onto one of the beds like it was her own and dropped a bombshell she'd be moving in with them. The boys all froze, completely stunned by her news. Sensing how awkward they felt, Hiro decided to walk her out to give them some space. That evening, Ichigo gave 02 a tour of the girls' quarters and told her she'd have to follow the house rules if she wanted to stay. 02 didn't take it well. She accused Ichigo of trying to control her and said she'd rather snuggle with Hiro in his bed. Meanwhile, back in the bathroom, Hiro was struggling. He felt something was seriously wrong. When Goro found him in their room, he pulled back Hiro's shirt and saw a large scar running over his chest. Alarmed, Goro reached for the emergency call button, but Hiro stopped him. After taking a few sips of water, Hiro insisted he wasn't giving up on piloting FranXX even if it killed him. Goro said he was out of his mind, but Hiro begged him not to tell anyone. He was afraid they'd ban him from the cockpit forever if they found out. The next day, their squad and another group were gathered for a mission briefing. A swarm of about 100 Klaxosaurs was moving toward the 2 colonies during the upcoming energy transfer. The new squad would handle the main defense, while Ichigo's team was assigned backup. As Hiro and 02 entered the room, Nana said they'd also be joining the mission. But the other squad wasn't happy. One of their boys started shouting that 02 was dangerous and selfish. He claimed she'd gotten his previous partner killed during a past battle. 02 didn't even flinch. She replied that she didn't remember any of it, she'd had too many partners to keep track. Her cold response made the boy furious, and he tried to confront her. But Hiro stepped between them and promised to keep her in check. That night, while the team was walking back to the dorms, Goro tried to bring up the idea of removing 02 from their group. But before he could finish, Hiro cut him off, realizing Goro was close to revealing his secret. Hiro quickly said it was better to keep her around as their ally. Later that same night, Hiro lay in bed, shaking. His illness was getting worse. Goro sat outside to cool his head, but soon saw Ichigo and 02 walking into the forest. Curious, he stayed hidden. Ichigo warned 02 to behave during the next mission. 02 didn't appreciate the tone and told her off, saying she didn't care what anyone thought. Ichigo blocked her path and warned her not to push Hiro too far, he wasn't like the others. 02 coldly replied that Hiro was her partner, her darling, and if he died, that was his choice. Ichigo snapped and slapped her across the face, calling her a monster with no feelings. 02's eyes started glowing with rage, and it looked like she was about to strike back, but then it started raining. She froze, distracted by the raindrops, and walked away in silence. Ichigo returned, drenched, only to find Goro waiting outside. He tossed her a blanket and said he saw her arguing but didn't get involved. Ichigo, heartbroken, admitted she felt completely useless. She couldn't form a real connection with Hiro, and it made her wonder if something was wrong with her. Then she broke down in tears. The next morning, Hiro met 02 by the river, the same spot where they first met. She gently opened his shirt and saw the scar again. She asked if he wanted to stop riding with her, knowing the third ride might kill him. But Hiro stayed strong and said he'd stick by her side no matter what. He'd keep piloting with a Revan if it meant pouring every last ounce of strength into it. 02 grinned and spun around with laughter, clearly touched by his answer. Later, the squad prepped for the mission. Goro pushed Ichigo to talk to Hiro before things got serious. She hesitated, and when she finally approached him, she got flustered. Hiro waved at 02 from across the hall, and it completely threw Ichigo off. She tried again and told him she saw him like a brother and hoped he'd return alive. Hiro nodded and said he felt the same, she was like a sister to him, and then took off after 02. As Ichigo climbed into her FranXX, she told Goro that her main goal now was to keep 02 as far away from battle as possible. Outside the base walls, both squads stood ready as a massive swarm of Klaxosaurs began closing in fast. The first squad jumped into action immediately and Robot hurled a spear that pierced a monster, while another launched high into the air and stabbed it until it exploded. 3 more FranXX pilots fired arrows at a different creature, and their leader followed up with a finishing blow that took it down. The squad captain said they'd take the enemies down one by one and quickly disabled another monster by breaking its leg, letting the others trap it while he finished it off with a clean strike. Suddenly, they noticed 3 more Klaxosaurs taking a different route. The captain turned to Ichigo's team and told them to handle it, but warned them not to mess up like before. As one of the creatures got closer, Futoshi tried to shoot it, but it dodged and went straight for him, chomping down on his robot. Ichigo fired rapidly but couldn't land a clean hit. Zoram tried stabbing it but ended up crashing into Mitsuru's FranXX instead. 2 of the monsters tried tearing Futoshi's unit apart, and another came charging in, ready to devour them. But Ichigo tackled it to the ground and destroyed it just in time. Then, a new beast broke off from the group and sprinted toward the base. Ichigo told Zoram to chase after it and take it out. Back inside, Hiro was in serious pain, his body was giving out. Meanwhile, more Klaxosaurs approached. 02 saw how messy Ichigo's team looked on the battlefield and laughed, calling them a bunch of clumsy fools. Hiro, though concerned by how thrilled she looked, asked why she enjoyed fighting so much. She simply smiled and said it made her feel alive, that she was a monster, and that the rush of battle gave her joy. Not wanting to be left behind, Hiro said they should join the fight. 02 agreed with a grin. As their FranXX launched into the war zone, she piled several enemies into a stack and wiped them out instantly, then tore another one apart in a single slash. Klaxosaurs fired at her, but she dodged and cut them down just as fast. With the enemy numbers dropping, the second team trapped another Klaxosaur and shocked it until it exploded. But suddenly, Hiro's condition got worse. His pain was so intense that their FranXX stopped moving. Still, 02 managed to regain control and went back to slicing enemies apart while Ichigo finished off the last one. Ichigo told 02 to pull out of the battle, but Hiro insisted they keep going. With all the smaller creatures gone, the second team held down the final Klaxosaur and electrocuted it again. But this time, something strange happened. A loud sound echoed as the beast began to transform. Before their eyes, it changed into a human-like shape and stood tall. The other team fired arrows, but the creature swatted them away like flies and slammed them into the ground. Just when it looked like their leader was about to be killed, Zoram swooped in and saved him. Realizing they were now the last team standing, Ichigo said they had to hold the monster down so Hiro and 02 could strike its core. The only weapon capable of finishing it was theirs. Everyone climbed onto the beast, trying to pin it down before it reached the base. Meanwhile, Hiro was struggling hard. Thick veins were bulging across his body as he fought to stay conscious. Still, he pushed forward. Their FranXX dove down and landed a deep stab into the monster. Hiro pushed all his strength into it, releasing gas into the beast, which made it collapse. Believing they had won, Hiro passed out. But the fight wasn't over. The Klaxosaur flung their FranXX across the battlefield and started transforming again. With Hiro unconscious, the enemy launched a brutal attack, smashing the FranXX against a wall and shutting it down completely. It kept pounding the robot while 02 tried to fight back. Ichigo saw this and started crying, thinking Hiro was dead. Goro yelled at her to stay strong. While Hiro's body stayed still, his mind had drifted somewhere else, a strange, dreamlike world. Naomi appeared and scolded him, saying he had given up on 02 just like he gave up on her. Hiro replied that he was useless now because he was dead, and he believed 02 could handle things alone. Then, he saw 02 standing under a tree. He ran to her, but she walked away, heartbroken. That moment snapped something inside Hiro. He woke up and saw her struggling to fight alone, getting slammed again and again by the monster. Even so, she kept going like a wild animal, refusing to give up. Realizing this was how she always fought, pushing herself past the limit after losing her partner, Hiro made up his mind. He wasn't going to leave her. As life returned to his eyes, the strange veins faded, and he grabbed her, calming her down. She screamed as their connection reignited, and the FranXX came back to life. They launched back into battle, slamming the monster hard. But just as it tried to transform again, the rest of the team swooped in and held it open. With its core exposed, Hiro flew at full speed and pierced straight through it. The Klaxosaur burst into light, and its glowing body exploded into smoke. Inside the cockpit, Hiro told 02 he wanted to be her wings, so she'd never have to fight alone again. Later, to celebrate their victory, the squad got a beach vacation. At the shore, 02 dragged Hiro into the water and splashed him playfully. But after a few days, Hiro was introduced to the mysterious Dr. FranXX, the man who invented the robots, and another higher-up, who said Hiro was lucky to still be alive. Then the sergeant told Hiro and 02 that the main command had officially declared them as partners. 02 hugged him immediately, overjoyed. At the beach, she swam far out while Hiro followed her. She said he had helped her discover the world outside the battlefield. She asked him to stay by her side forever, then licked his face for fun. Hiro got flustered, thinking she was going to kiss him. But she explained that a kiss was something deep and meaningful, and should only be shared between people who truly love each other. She asked him if he had ever kissed anyone else. Hiro froze, stuttering, and luckily his friends dragged him back to shore before he could answer. They tossed him onto the sand, laughing, and Zoram, being nosy, asked what a kiss even meant. Hiro tried sneaking away, but Zoram grabbed him and begged for an answer. Reluctantly, Hiro told him that a kiss was when two people put their lips together. Shocked, Zoram asked if it was a big deal. Hiro replied that it was a warm, special moment, something you'd want to last forever. Zoram, curious, tried to kiss him, but Hiro stopped him, saying it should only be shared with someone you truly care about. Just then, Ichigo walked over and asked what weird nonsense was going on. Goro told her they had just learned what kissing meant and asked if she had ever done it. She quickly said no. That's when Miku called them over. They all followed her to a hidden cave and, after climbing some stairs, found themselves in an old abandoned city. As they looked around, they were stunned. The place looked exactly like their boarding home, making them wonder if it had been built using the same design and what had happened to the people who once lived there. While everyone else was exploring, Kokoro wandered into another part of the old house and noticed an ancient book lying on the ground. Curious, she picked it up and wiped off the thick layer of dust. The book opened to a drawing of a baby, and she stared at it like she was under a spell. Just then, a loose board above her almost fell, but Mitsuru quickly pulled her out of the way. Even after that, Kokoro kept holding the book, her eyes locked on the picture. Elsewhere in the house, Ichigo stumbled across a faded sketch of two people kissing. It made her think of the time she kissed Hiro inside the FranXX. Right at that moment, 02 walked up behind her and casually said she had kissed Hiro too. When Ichigo said she had also kissed someone, 02 got serious and told her that kisses should be saved for someone truly special. Then she asked Ichigo who she had kissed. Before Ichigo had to answer, Goro shouted from across the street, saving her from embarrassment. Later, they all climbed up a cliff overlooking the city ruins. Saroma asked how a city like this could even exist. 02 explained that a long time ago, when the Klaxosaurs first started attacking, humans abandoned all their cities to survive. This was just one of many ghost towns left behind all over the world. That night after dinner, 02 suddenly announced that she wanted to go swimming. Without waiting, she took off toward the ocean. A little later, everyone was sitting around a campfire. Hiro was thinking out loud, wondering why humanity chose to run from the Klaxosaurs instead of standing their ground. Since the monsters were drawn to magma energy, he questioned whether giving up the planet had even been worth it. Zoram, however, believed they had done the right thing and saw it as the ultimate sacrifice to protect the world. Later that night, while the others slept, Ichigo saw Hiro quietly sneaking out. She followed him, and the two of them walked along the beach. She pointed out the stars and reminded him how he used to read her stories about them when they were younger. Hiro didn't remember any of that. But when they saw a star shining above, something clicked. He remembered they'd named it after Ichigo's code number and had made a promise to see it together one day, outside the fortress. As they walked, Ichigo told Hiro not to put all of his attention on 02. She reminded him that the kiss they shared meant everything to her. She tried to tell him that she wanted to always stay by his side, but just as she was about to confess her feelings, Hiro pointed to a shooting star. He told her to make a wish in her heart, completely missing what she was trying to say. Ichigo thought he was clueless. A few days later, during another mission, the squad faced off against a new Klaxosaur. One robot dodged the first attack, and Zorome leapt on top of the creature, stabbing it over and over. Futoshi followed up with a blast, and the whole team rushed in for the kill. But then, out of nowhere, the monster spat slime all over them. At first, they thought it was dangerous, but soon realized it didn't harm their FranXX units. That relief didn't last. The slime began leaking inside and melting the girls' pilot suits. The guys, wide-eyed and shocked, stared at the sight like their lives depended on it. They were clearly enjoying the view. But 02 snapped Hiro back into focus, yelling that there was still a monster to defeat. Quickly, they sliced the creature into dust and ended the threat. Back at the base, the boys tried to apologize to the girls for staring too hard, but the girls were furious and called them a bunch of pervy weirdos. To keep some distance, they literally drew a line across the house. Miku warned the boys not to cross it under any circumstance. Of course, Zorome immediately tested that Ruland nearly got smacked by every girl in the room. The next day, the girls found out the boys had taken over the dining hall and were stuffing themselves with food. Goro suggested ending their silly feud, but the girls refused. When they tried to pull Miku back, 02 casually stepped across the line and told the boys that the girls wanted peace. But she secretly switched the signs, changing the girls' side to the boys. Later, the girls searched the lower floors for food. It was their first time exploring that part of the building, and they found several doors that were mysteriously sealed shut. Ichigo wondered how long they'd be stuck fighting Klaxosaurs, since the war seemed endless. Out of nowhere, 02 walked up and licked Ichigo's neck, saying she could taste her secret. Ichigo was creeped out and said she belonged in the jungle with wild animals. Later, the girls cornered 02 and asked her to explain her behavior. They were upset that she kept hanging around Hiro and ignoring the rules, which made them feel like their efforts meant nothing. 02 told them she'd join their fight, but the next day, she tore off the restriction notice and declared that the girls had called for a truce. Then she switched the signs again and told the boys to come in. But when the boys entered the bathroom, they walked straight into the girls changing and got screamed at, hit with shampoo bottles, and called filthy pigs. Zorome tried to explain, but Hiro noticed 02 was running off with their clothes. He chased her as she dashed down the hall, slid down a railing, ran up a staircase, and flew across the lounge like she was in an action movie. Finally, she climbed up to the roof. Hiro followed her all the way to the edge. With nowhere left to go, she dropped all the stolen clothes into the air. Hiro asked why she stole them, and she just laughed, saying she wanted to have fun. Then, she leaned over the edge like she was going to fall, but caught the building frame and landed smoothly like a pro. Inside, Nana called everyone in and told them to stop acting like children. She said they had another battle coming up soon, and they needed to fix their problems. In the girls' room, Ichigo demanded to know why 02 had tricked them. 02 said she was trying to teach them to become better parents, though no one really knew what that meant. Before leaving, she warned them that they wouldn't live much longer. In the boys' room, Hiro told them it was time to make peace. He reminded them how much the girls helped during Battle 7, powering the FranXX with their bodies. The boys realized the girls were strong, brave, and probably good wife material, so they agreed to settle things. Meanwhile, the girls tried to understand what 02 had meant. Kokoro finally said what no one else would: they needed each other. The boys and girls made a better team when they worked together and respected each other. But Miku wasn't convinced. She still thought they were better off apart, and she walked out. Worried, the girls asked the boys for help finding her. Miku had run off and was hiding in an abandoned room. Inside, she found a photo of a squad that used to live there, shocked that others had once been in the same place. She dropped the frame just as her friends burst in, wondering who had used to stay in that room. 02 appeared and said it belonged to a previous squad, one that had died in battle. That scared everyone. No one wanted to end up like them. They all agreed to stop fighting and make peace. Zorome apologized to Miku for everything. A few weeks later, the team got a gift from headquarters. 02 asked why they received presents every year, and Hiro explained it was the government's way of motivating them. Later that day, Goro caught Ichigo watching from behind a corner as Hiro gave 02 a gift. Hiro said she didn't get anything this year, so he wanted to give her something special. It was a mirrorone that used to belong to Naomi, his old partner who had to leave after getting hurt. 02 was touched and hugged him tightly, saying she'd treasure it forever. Ichigo saw this and felt a little heartbroken. Goro remembered something from their childhood. When he noticed Ichigo's hair was growing long, he secretly made her a hair clip to impress her. But before he could give it to her, he saw that Hiro had already done the same thing. Goro never gave her the clip. He had always liked Ichigo, but fear kept him from speaking up. Later that night, Hiro saw Goro holding the old clip and asked why he still had it. Goro finally opened up. He said he had wanted to give it to Ichigo for years but never found the courage. When Hiro asked why, Goro admitted the truth: Ichigo had always liked Hiro, not him. She wanted to stay by Hiro's side the way 02 always stayed by his. Goro smiled, said he had finally let it go, and laid down to rest. The next day, the sergeant gathered the squad and gave them urgent news. A massive Klaxosaur had been spotted a few miles away and was heading straight for their base. Nana explained their mission clearly: they had to destroy it before it got anywhere near the fortress, or the damage would be huge. Without wasting time, the team jumped into their FranXX and launched toward the threat. As they approached, they spotted huge storm clouds forming in the sky. That's when they saw an enormous Klaxosaur floating in the clouds, looking like some alien spaceship from another world. Zoro, full of confidence, charged in first. He dodged the tentacles flying at him and started slicing through them like a maniac. But then, one tentacle grabbed him midair. He fought his way out and broke free. But the moment he did, a blast hit him. As smoke cleared, he spotted what looked like the core of the beast and thought it would be an easy win. He flew toward it to finish it off. But strange glowing bubbles surrounded him, and he got stuck. Before he could react, Ichigo flew in and punched his FranXX out of the trap, saving him but got caught herself. Just then, the Klaxosaur started glowing, building up power. A second later, it released a massive explosion that shook the sky. Goro woke up groggy inside his FranXX, turned off the emergency alarm, and remembered something: he had ejected Ichigo from the cockpit just before the blast. Through the comms, Hiro's voice came through. He explained that Ichigo was safe, but Goro was still trapped inside the Klaxosaur's body. The rest of the squad had been forced to retreat, and their only hope of saving him now depended on reactivating his FranXX. But with Ichigo no longer connected to the system, that wasn't possible. Ichigo stormed into the control room, demanding they rescue Goro immediately. She shouted that he was an idiot, but her idiot tan that they couldn't just leave him. The sergeant calmly explained that Goro had ended up inside the creature's magma core and was lucky to even be alive. But since the fortress came first, they might need to destroy the Klaxosaur with Goro still inside. Ichigo, horrified, begged them to find another way. 02 stepped forward and proposed a plan: sneak through the exhaust port on top of the creature and enter from there. The squad agreed and launched back into the battlefield. Zoro helped position their FranXX at the top, and Ichigo dove into the fuel pool inside the beast, swimming deeper and deeper. Meanwhile, Goro was running out of air and began to reflect on his life. As a kid, he was always picked on and weak, but Ichigo had always protected him. He had fallen in love with her long ago, even though he knew she only had eyes for Hiro. Still, she was his reason to keep going. Ready to give up, Goro moved to trigger the self-destruct button. But at that exact moment, Ichigo arrived inside the cockpit. She reminded him that she promised to save him because he could never do anything without her. Goro was overwhelmed with emotion. He grabbed her hand, and their connection reactivated the FranXX. With one final boost of power, the robot blasted upward, launching out of the Klaxosaur and escaping just in time. Behind them, the monster exploded in a blinding light, and the battle was over. Back at the fortress, Goro finally gave Ichigo the hair clip he had held onto since childhood. He told her he'd wanted to give it to her for years and confessed that he loved her and wanted to stay by her side forever. But Ichigo gently told him that she only saw him as a friend. Later, Hiro noticed that 02 looked unusually quiet. When he asked what was wrong, she shrugged it off and said she was just thinking about dinner. Meanwhile, Zoro and Miku were yelling at each other again when Nana arrived and told everyone she had important news. They were invited into the city by the military leaders for their efforts in battle. The squad was excited. They thought they'd finally get to meet real adults and see how people lived outside the fortress. But 02 wasn't thrilled. As she tried to leave, Nana told her she'd be going for medical checkups during the trip. 02 refused, saying she felt fine and didn't need any dumb tests. The next day, everyone was dressed and ready to go. Hiro noticed 02 looking sad, like she didn't want to go at all. As they traveled into the city, the teens were amazed by the beautiful sights and towering buildings. They dreamed about living there someday. Inside the headquarters, a masked man greeted them and praised their victories. He said their squad was the most valuable team in the military. But after he left, the teens were confused. There was no party, no celebration. Nana explained that there were no feasts allowed in the city. They'd be heading back right after the visit. The girls suggested walking part of the way to enjoy the view. On the walk, Zoro mentioned how badly he wanted to become an adult so he could live in the city, but Ichigo said she didn't think they'd survive long enough. With so many battles ahead, she doubted any of them would grow up at all. At one point, the squad stopped at a massive energy plant and stared at the strange machinery. It looked unlike anything they'd ever seen. But when they turned to leave, Zoro stayed behind. He snuck into one of the buildings and took an elevator to the top, trying to explore more. Once he got up there, though, he realized he was completely lost. He started wandering around, hoping to find an exit. The city felt empty and lifeless. It was like a giant ghost town. He spotted a man walking nearby, but the guy completely ignored him. Eventually, Zoro started climbing back down but lost his grip and fell. He woke up in a strange apartment with an older woman taking care of him. She said she thought he had cracked his skull and was glad he survived. Zoro asked if this was a nursing home, but the lady said that kind of place didn't exist in the city anymore. She said she needed to report him to the authorities, but Zoro begged her to stay and let him ask a few questions first. She agreed and took off her mask. As he ate the food she made, he asked if she lived alone. She said no, she lived with a partner, though they rarely saw each other. Zoro thought that meant they piloted FranXX together, but the woman explained that partner meant husband, someone she was supposed to raise children with. Zoro was confused. He'd only ever seen boys and girls team up to fight. The idea of having babies was completely new to him. The woman offered to show him her partner. They walked into a room where her husband lay inside a strange machine. She said he was using it to keep his mind active for something important. Suddenly, the woman collapsed. She said she was dizzy and hadn't talked to anyone in years. She'd almost forgotten how to hold a conversation. Zoro asked if she spoke to her husband, but she said no. They didn't even greet each other anymore. She said people in the city stuck to their own tasks and barely made personal connections. Zoro started complaining about Miku, but the woman encouraged him to find someone new. Zoro, however, refused, said Miku was special to him, and he wouldn't trade her for anyone. Hearing that made the woman even sadder. She told him she needed to report him now. As she sent out the signal to the authorities, she asked why he was crying. Zoro said she looked familiar and asked if they had met before. The woman said no, but called him a hero for risking his life to protect the fortress. Suddenly, a loud buzzer went off. 2 agents from the forces stormed in, scanned Zoro for contamination, and called him dirty and unfit to be in the city. Back at the boarding home, Zoro was punished for ditching the team. They made him scrub the toilets, and Miku stormed in, screaming at him and calling him a stupid, useless idiot. A few days after their latest mission, the team returned to base, worn out but proud. Ichigo informed Nana that they had successfully wiped out several Klaxosaurs and were ready for whatever came next. The sergeant quickly informed them that a new batch of Klaxosaurs was approaching, and they needed to be ready to fight again the following day. He told them to rest up and be prepared. The next morning, the team stood by as a massive machine began digging deep into the ground. That's when they got the bad news: more Klaxosaurs were heading their way. Everyone geared up, climbed into their FranXX, and prepared for battle. But before the fight even began, one robot shut down. Inside it, Mitsuru had collapsed from exhaustion and was looking extremely sick. They rushed him back to the facility for treatment. That night, while unconscious, Mitsuru had a vivid dream. He remembered being a small, weak kid, constantly told that he wasn't strong enough to be a pilot. Desperate to prove himself, he volunteered for a dangerous experiment and received a risky injection that could have killed him but didn't. Later, when he asked Hiro to be his FranXX partner, Hiro told him he could only ride with a girl. The rejection hit Mitsuru hard, and as he woke up, that memory made his blood boil. He realized he still hated Hiro and had no plans to forgive him. The next day, Mitsuru stubbornly demanded to pilot again. He wanted to prove everyone wrong and show that he was still capable. But when he tried to power up the FranXX, Nana and the sergeant saw that he was still too weak. They told him he wasn't ready. Afterward, they gathered the team and announced that Mitsuru and Ikuno would no longer be partners. Both had lost their motivation, and it was better for everyone if they switched. After the meeting, Hiro pulled Zero to his side and asked why she'd been acting off lately. She coldly replied that it wasn't his business and walked off. During the next meeting, Nana asked for volunteers to change partners. Ikuno stepped forward and asked to team up with Ichigo. even though FranXX only worked with male-female pairs. Ichigo agreed anyway. They thought it was worth a shot. Then Kokoro raised her hand and asked to change too, which absolutely shattered Futoshi's heart. He looked like the world had ended right in front of him. Later, they learned that Ikuno and Ichigo couldn't activate the FranXX, just as expected. So Nana reassigned Futoshi to be Ikuno's partner instead. That night in the boys' dorm, Futoshi sat crying. He had loved Kokoro deeply, and now she was gone. When Zoram insulted her, calling her stupid and useless, Futoshi threatened to knock him out. As Mitsuru passed by, Futoshi tried to punch him too but tripped and face-planted on the floor. A few hours later, the team was told a giant Klaxosaur was closing in. They scrambled into their FranXX and raced out to face it. 02 led the charge and slashed the beast from bottom to top, but it didn't even flinch. When she tried to stab it again, she got trapped under its thick armor. Ichigo and Futoshi jumped in just in time to pull her out, but 02 rushed right back in, furious and wild. She sliced off more pieces of the monster butt, then it split apart into smaller, faster Klaxosaurs. They swarmed the area, knocking FranXX units around. Just when it looked like Futoshi would get crushed, Hiro pulled 02 back before she could go too far off the rails. Kokoro suggested they shoot the creature to find the core, and the team agreed. As they dodged the beast's massive legs, 3 smaller Klaxosaurs broke off and sprinted toward the excavation zone. 2 FranXX units fired at them but missed. One creature dodged everything but Futoshi managed to jump onto its back and slash it to pieces. Meanwhile, Mitsuru, desperate to redeem himself, charged toward the main Klaxosaur, but got swatted away. As the monster prepared to crush them, Futoshi flew in and blocked its foot just in time. While 2 other FranXX slashed at the legs, it began to fall. The monster suddenly released a huge tentacle, but Futoshi fired non-stop at it to hold it back. Inside the cockpit with Kokoro, she tried to motivate Mitsuru to try again, but he called himself the biggest loser in the world. He told her Hiro had abandoned him as a kid, and maybe he really was worthless. Kokoro said none of that mattered anymore. She believed in him and wanted to help him move forward. Encouraged, Kokoro tried to power up the FranXX alone, but it didn't work, and Mitsuru yelled at her to never do that again. He called her crazy but held her back before anything bad happened. At the same time, the rest of the team kept chopping away at the monster, but it kept reaching toward the construction area. Just then, Mitsuru and Kokoro's robot came to life. Futoshi pushed the Klaxosaur back and unleashed a heavy blast, weakening it. Mitsuru took the opening, flew forward, and fired directly into it, blowing a hole in the core. That gave Hiro and 02 the perfect chance to stab it. The monster twisted, collapsed, and exploded in a thick cloud of smoke. The battle was finally over, and the FranXX managed to escape. Back at the base, Futoshi walked up to Mitsuru and punched him straight in the face. He warned him never to put Kokoro in danger again. Mitsuru apologized and promised to look after her from now on. Days later, the team was transported to a place called the Lab, the very same facility where they were originally created. Nana said they were there for medical tests, but Hiro suspected the real reason was to monitor 02. Just then, another team showed up pulled by the same weird guy Hiro had seen weeks earlier. The man approached 02 and asked if she had changed her ways. She told him to shove it and walked off. He called her by a codename Iota and explained that she used to be on their team. He seemed surprised the others had become her friends, and even wondered if they had given her some kind of strange injection. Ichigo stepped forward and told him 02 was their comrade and way more human than he'd ever be. Trying to be smooth, the guy kissed 02's hand. She blushed hard and quickly walked away with the rest of the squad. After Hiro completed his test, he remembered something from a few weeks earlier when he had found 02 acting strange in the library. He asked her what was going on, but instead of answering, she leaned in like she was about to kiss him, her eyes blank like a robot. When he noticed her sharp fangs, he panicked and backed away. Meanwhile, outside the lab, 02 was throwing guards around like rag dolls. She kicked and smashed anyone who tried to stop her, but eventually got shot and collapsed right before reaching Hiro. Hours later, the team wandered through the facility and watched the next generation of kids inside glass rooms. They saw injections being administered to create new parasites. One woman told them the new batch was being pumped with high levels of yellow blood cells to keep up with the rising Klaxosaur threats. Hiro asked about his old partner, Naomi, and if she had ever returned to the lab. The woman said, "No one ever comes back once they leave." As the squad left the lab, Kokoro asked something that surprised everyone. "How are babies made?" The others stared at her like she had 2 heads. Miku said that babies were made in machines just like they were. Back at the fortress, Nana and the sergeant noticed some Klaxosaurs sneaking toward the base and ordered the team to intercept. 02's FranXX launched like a rocket, crashing into the enemy and destroying it with blinding force. But when she landed, one Klaxosaur hit her hard and knocked her back. Ichigo warned her to stick to the plan, but 02 ignored her. She kept charging forward, determined to wipe out everything in her path. She missed a blast, then jumped at another monster and stabbed it dead. More Klaxosaurs appeared, moving too fast for the squad to keep up. But 02 called them easy kills and raced after them. Hiro saw her losing control and tried to stop her. She didn't listen. Instead, she powered up her FranXX again and landed in front of the creatures, wiping them out one by one with her spear. Then she snapped. She started pounding the ground over and over like a wild animal, screaming and thrashing like she had completely lost it. Then, without warning, her FranXX ran out of fuel and everything shut down. Later that day, Hiro found 02 sitting alone by the lake, looking distant. He asked her why she had been acting so strange lately. Without even looking at him, she said she had only one goal left: to wipe out every last Klaxosaur on Earth. She believed if she could destroy them all, she might finally become human. Hiro stared at her, stunned. He tried to calm her down, telling her that she didn't need to change, that she should accept herself just the way she was. But instead of listening, she snapped. She yelled at him to shut up and leave her alone. Still, Hiro didn't back down. He confessed that he loved her, but instead of being touched, 02 got suspicious. She accused him of just trying to get close to her for selfish reasons. Then, without warning, she tackled him and kissed him aggressively, saying she was fine with developing plot if that's what he wanted. But Hiro pushed her off and insisted that wasn't who he was. He told her he wanted real love, not just some meaningless fling. 02 coldly replied that she was only using him to fight Klaxosaurs and chase her dream of becoming human. She didn't care about love, only her mission. That night, Ichigo tried to speak with 02, but found her smashing mirrors in a rage. Ichigo watched, unsettled, wondering if she had lost her mind. Her thoughts drifted back to what the mysterious man from the other squad had told her, that 02 was dangerous, and every one of her partners had died because of her. He claimed she was placing a curse on her co-pilots, and if Hiro kept riding with her, he'd eventually become a monster just like her. The next day, the squad entered another battle in a snowy region. 02, as usual, charged straight into danger. But smaller Klaxosaurs ganged up on her and started beating her back. Zoro and Ichigo had to step in to help her. Still, she refused to stop. She pushed forward again, eyes locked on the enemy. Hiro pulled their FranXX back and begged her to let go of this obsession with becoming human. But she didn't listen. Instead, she forced control of the robot and began choking Hiro's spirit inside the cockpit. She said she didn't care what happened, she'd do whatever it took to become human and reunite with her first darling. That word hit Hiro hard. He started to remember something. He felt like he knew her from long ago, and as if reading his thoughts, 02 started to tell her story. She said that as a little girl, she had been kept in a locked room for months. A faceless figure fed her through a slot in the wall. One day, they gave her a picture book. Inside were beautiful drawings of a monster girl trying to become human. From that moment, 02 became obsessed with finding more books like it and learning about the world. But her curiosity led to her being turned into an experiment at the facility. Meanwhile, when Hiro was younger, he had been full of questions about who he really was. He was just one of many kids being trained to become a parasite. One day, he found Ichigo crying alone. She said the constant injections were turning their friends into lifeless zombies. She even wondered if she should get more injections just to stop feeling emotions. Hiro told her she was different and gave her the name Ichigo. From then on, he started giving names to all the other children too. But over time, the kids noticed their friends were disappearing one by one, and the adults refused to explain anything. Despite the growing unease, Hiro continued performing well in training and was rewarded with candy. Still, no one would answer his questions. One day, Hiro saw a strange girl being dragged into the lab. She looked inhuman and had red skin and fangs. When he asked about her, an adult warned him not to get involved. But Hiro couldn't stop thinking about her. He snuck out of his room in the middle of a snowstorm, climbed a tree, and peeked through her window. Inside, she was wrestling with a guard over her picture book. When she got it back, she clutched it like it was everything. Days passed. The disappearances continued, and one day Hiro was called in for another test. Afterward, he was rewarded with 2 sweets. But as he was leaving, he heard a scream. Curious, he followed the sound and saw that same red-skinned girl 02 being tortured for some brutal experiment. Horrified, Hiro tried to run, but a man caught him and dragged him away. Later, Hiro snuck out again. He made his way through the snow and back to her room. Climbing the same tree, he tossed a flashlight through her window and reached out to her. She hesitated, scared, but eventually grabbed his hand. They climbed down together, but the branch snapped, and they fell into the snow. Wandering through the frozen woods, 02 looked around in awe. She had never seen the outside world before. When she spotted a rat, she grabbed it and ate it raw. Hiro was disgusted and tried to get her to throw it up, but she bit him. He stayed calm, gently rubbed her head, and helped her feel safe. Though she couldn't speak, Hiro noticed she seemed to understand him. After seeing the number 2 on her bracelet, he decided to name her 02. She loved it and began repeating his name. He wrapped her feet with cloth to protect them from cuts, and they kept moving. While resting, Hiro gave her a candy, and she lit up with joy. Then she handed him her picture book and asked him to read to her. Just then, they heard guards in the distance searching for them. They hid in a bush and managed to escape detection. Continuing through the snow, they entered a new area and kept running, barely ahead of the soldiers chasing them. While hiding in a tree, Hiro explained the story in the book, a tale of a monster princess who fell in love with a human and wanted to become one herself. But he thought the ending was sad, since the two could never be together. As they prepared to move again, Hiro noticed 02 had gotten hurt. Without thinking, he licked her wound to clean it and told her he wanted to be her darling forever. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she hugged him tightly. But before they could go any further, the soldiers found them. One of them slammed Hiro on the head. Both of them were dragged back to the lab. After that, the doctor ordered Hiro's memory to be erased. That's why he had forgotten everything 02, their promise, and what they had been through together. All 02 had wanted since then was to become human and find the boy who once saved her. Back inside the FranXX, Hiro told her he now remembered it all. She was that same monster girl from the lab, the one with the picture book. As those memories returned, the robot powered down, and Hiro passed out in her arms. Ichigo entered the cockpit and saw Hiro collapsed. She yanked 02 out and tried to wake him up. Later that day, Hiro was taken away for treatment, and 02 realized she had made a terrible mistake. When she tried to visit Hiro, Ichigo blocked her path. She said 02 wasn't allowed near him ever again. Ichigo told the others that 02 had been manipulating Hiro from the start and was responsible for his condition. She had no intention of letting her hurt him anymore. 02 tried to brush it off, but Ichigo stood her ground. She said 02 was no longer part of their squad and was banned from seeing Hiro. Later, Hiro finally woke up. His friends were relieved to see him conscious, but he immediately asked where 02 was. Ichigo told him the truth. She had kept her away and officially removed her from the team. Before leaving, Hiro apologized to Mitsuru for breaking his old promise to be partners. Mitsuru said he didn't care about that anymore and even advised Hiro to forget about 02. But Hiro couldn't. He remembered how lost and broken he had become after losing his memories. He had been failing every test and was on the verge of being sent away. But 02 had changed everything. She brought him back to life. She reminded him of who he truly was. And now, no matter what anyone said, Hiro was determined to find her again and make things right. The next morning, the sergeant gathered everyone to brief them on a new mission. This time, it wasn't just any battle, it was an all-out war against a huge army of Klaxosaurs. 2 other squads would be helping out too, but as soon as the meeting began, Ichigo raised her hand and firmly demanded that 02 be removed from their team. She said 02 had become dangerous and was acting totally out of control. Nana responded by saying that 02 was already scheduled to return to headquarters the next day. She'd been officially summoned back and would be rejoining her original team. 02 was stunned by this and begged them to let her see Hiro just one last time before she left. But Nana firmly denied the request and reminded her that she would be leaving in the morning, no exceptions. As 02 turned to leave the room, Futoshi stepped in front of her to block her path. Then Ichigo added coldly that they were going to keep her away from Hiro no matter what. At the same time, Hiro tried to step outside his room, but Miku stopped him, saying he wasn't allowed to go anywhere. Everyone was afraid that if 02 saw him again, something terrible would happen. Later, Ichigo entered Hiro's room and brought him an apple. As she peeled it, she told him that 02 was going back to her old team and that he should stay far away from her. But Hiro couldn't hide his feelings. She admitted he still couldn't stop thinking about 02. He apologized for making everyone worry and said he needed to rest. After finishing the apples, he laid down and Ichigo left. Meanwhile, back at the house, 02 had lost her patience. She knocked Goro into a wall, trying to force her way out so she could find Hiro. Ichigo appeared and warned her again she wouldn't be allowed anywhere near him. 02 grabbed Ichigo's shirt in frustration and said she just wanted to talk. Goro stepped in and suggested they at least give her a few minutes with Hiro. Soon after, they reached the facility. 02 rushed into the medical room, expecting to see Hiro, but it was completely empty. The others were just as shocked. That's when they realized Hiro had somehow escaped by climbing through the ceiling. But 02 assumed they had all tricked her, and her eyes lit up with fury. Meanwhile, Hiro had arrived at her room in the boarding house, eager to see her. But when he opened the door, he saw that the place was a total mess. At the same time, 02 had already gone berserk. She had taken out the entire squad and was about to attack Ichigo. Just then, Hiro walked in. The moment she saw him, 02 let Ichigo go. Hiro rushed over, asking why she had hurt everyone. 02 tried to explain, saying that Ichigo had tried to keep them apart, and all she wanted was to talk to him. But Hiro said she had become something terrifying. He told her to leave and never come back. Her heart shattered. The next day, 02 prepared to leave. As she walked out alone, some of the others started to regret how things had turned out. Even they had to admit they would miss her. Hiro stood near the boarding home, watching her walk into the forest without saying a word to him. Ichigo approached Hiro and suggested they go inside. But when she turned to him, she saw tears rolling down his face. He was heartbroken. He didn't want to let her go. He ran after her, but Ichigo grabbed his arm. She told him that if he kept chasing 02, he'd lose himself and become a monster too. Then, in a desperate move, she kissed him. She said she'd always loved him since they were little and had dreamed of being with him forever. But before Hiro could respond, he looked up and saw a jet flying away in the sky. It was 02, already leaving the fortress. The next day, the sergeant showed them terrifying footage. A huge swarm of Klaxosaurs had been wiping out fortresses and crushing defense lines. Seeing the destruction, the squad realized this was nothing like the small battles they had fought before. This was a full-scale invasion, and their survival depended on winning. The sergeant told them their mission was to eliminate all the Klaxosaurs and capture the stronghold. Everyone geared up to leave. Goro gave Hiro a pat on the shoulder and told him to hold his head high. Ichigo told him to just stay back and take a nap since he couldn't help anyway. Out on the battlefield, 02 back with her old team built a ferocious assault. Her teammates attacked first, obliterating a wave of Klaxosaurs. Ichigo's team joined in shortly after. Futoshi fired powerful blasts at the creatures, tearing them apart as he charged forward. Zoram slashed one monster after another into chunks. Mitsuru shot down more and discovered an opening that led deeper into the Klaxosaur nest. As Ichigo announced they'd be heading in, the ground split open. A colossal super Klaxosaur emerged, roaring as it hurled an entire fortress through the air, instantly destroying it. It then smashed through another base and started making its way toward the last remaining fortress. A different squad tried stopping it with explosives, and although they slowed it down, the beast smashed its way into the city and unleashed a flood of smaller Klaxosaurs. Ichigo told everyone to fall back inside, but before she could act, 02 appeared and sprinted into the chaos. As waves of monsters flooded the city, she tried climbing the enormous Klaxosaur, but it swatted her down. Surrounded by smaller ones, she used her tail to rip them apart. The rest of the team was falling apart from exhaustion. Still, 02 kept running, cutting down every Klaxosaur in her path. Meanwhile, back at the base, Hiro sat in 02's trashed room, staring at a cracked mirror with tape on it. He wondered what she had wanted to tell him before leaving. After sitting there in silence, something inside him snapped. He wasn't going to just sit around anymore. It was time to step up and fight for her. On the battlefield, the city was falling fast. Ichigo ran out of ammo and began swinging metal bars to crush monsters. Zoram tried to take one down, but was thrown back. As Ichigo slashed through another one, they spotted a robot speeding towards 02. It was Hiro in a training unit. But before he could reach her, a Klaxosaur slammed him into the ground. Ichigo shouted for him to go back to base, but Goro saw through her. He realized Ichigo was only trying to separate them, so she could keep Hiro to herself. Goro powered down his robot and told Hiro to climb in. Then he turned to Ichigo and asked her to help him reach 02. As they synced up, Ichigo felt Hiro's heart and it was full of memories of 02. She knew she had no chance. Still, she held it together and powered up. Ichigo's robot charged the FranXX that 02 was in, but the enemy knocked her away instantly. Refusing to give up, she attacked again and again. Her weapon got snapped in half, and she was thrown around, but she kept fighting until she finally disabled the enemy and cleared a path. When Hiro finally entered the cockpit, he found something shocking. 02 had transformed into a monstrous, unrecognizable version of herself. She was still controlling the FranXX, leaving him no access. Determined to reach her heart, Hiro gently grabbed her huge horns and asked to see what she was hiding deep inside. In that moment, her memories poured into him. After Hiro lost his memories years ago, the scientists had tried to wipe 02's mind as well, but she fought back. She protected the moments they had shared, the promise, the picture book. She even started eating the pages to make sure the memories stayed inside her. Hiro held her close. As he did, her monstrous horns faded away, and her eyes opened. She told him to stay back, she was still a monster. But Hiro didn't care. He held her tighter and said that even though they couldn't escape together back then, they could do it now. He wanted to explore the world with her. Then he kissed her. Just then, 3 enormous Klaxosaurs launched an energy blast at them. But their FranXX soared into the sky, glowing with blinding light. In that instant, the robot transformed. 02 charged forward, flying straight into the heart of the giant Klaxosaur and blew it up from the inside. The explosion was massive. Then, without slowing down, she went on a rampage, wiping out the rest of the Klaxosaur army in a whirlwind of destruction. The surrounding base crumbled as the monsters were obliterated in a final, earth-shaking blast. And that's where this video ends. If you want to see the next part, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.